We now shoot the majority of our videos on either the A7S Mark III or this honkin' beast, the Sony FX3, which when you add the lens, microphone, and screen to it, end up costing about $7,000. This is the Canon M200, which I got on Amazon for about $500, with a lens, by the way. The question is, if you got footage from both of these cameras side by side and you weren't told which one was which, would you be able to figure it out? Let's find out. First, let's thank the sponsor of today's video and give you guys a chance to win some free stuff. Like a lot of free stuff. Like a whole stream room worth of free stuff. Metal.tv and musician Alan Walker are giving away 2 fully equipped stream rooms as well as a bunch of other free stuff as prizes for a montage contest. If you haven't seen Alan Walker's latest music video, Believers, it's pretty much all gameplay footage. And he's doing this contest with Metal.tv to see who can create an awesome montage using his song. Metal.tv is pretty incredible software that makes it super easy to capture, edit, and share short-form gaming content. Just use it to edit your own montage before June 4th to enter. More info on the contest at walkergaming.com/themontage, link in the description below. But for anyone who's never edited before, real quick, let me show you how easy it is. Metal runs in the background, capturing your gameplay footage, and even budget PCs can run it. As you set it up, you let it know what games you play, what hotkey you want to use as a clip button, as well as how long you want the clips to be. Metal will just record automatically when you play those games, and when a montage moment happens, you hit your hotkey, and it goes back and records that moment. Then you bring your clips into the built-in editor, crop them down, combine clips, even add text and music and graphics. And by the way, little secret, StreamBeats has actually partnered with Metal, so pretty soon here, you'll see StreamBeats in this little section over here. When you're done editing, just upload to Metal where you can browse and search for awesome clips of your favorite game. And to join this giveaway, start recording your clips now and edit them together using Alan Walker's Believer as background music. Make sure you upload it to Metal and other socials using the hashtag BelieversMontage. And remember, the contest ends this Friday, June 4th. Download Metal in the link in the description below. If you've been a subscriber to this channel for a while, you've seen a lot of camera comparison videos. Most of them are comparisons between webcams, with the occasional video about a mirrorless camera thrown in. So, by now, you should be an expert, right? Well, we're gonna do 2 different comparison tests here today to find out if there were 2 different streamers streaming, one of them with a cheap camera, one of them with an expensive camera. Would you be able to tell which one was streaming with which? The first comparison will be between mirrorless cameras, the M200 and the Sony A7S Mark III. The second test will be a comparison between 2 different priced webcams. The first one being the infamous beginner webcam, the Logitech C920, which you can get on Amazon for between $70 and $80 as of filming this. The second one being my favorite webcam, the AverMedia PW513, which, as of filming this, goes on Amazon for about $194. In order to make this test as fair as possible, we're gonna do a couple things. First thing, lighting is going to be the same across all the cameras. It will be decent lighting, but it will be affordable lighting. That way, no matter which camera you might have, you'll be able to afford the lighting that we're using. No super fancy aperture dome lights that no one will ever have if they use a C920. Also, because you can't stream above 1080p on Twitch, and frankly, even if you could, the 6,000 bitrate cap, you wouldn't notice a difference in 4K anyway. The different cameras will be using the same resolution and frame rate. So the webcams will both be using 1080-30. The mirrorless cameras will be using 1080-60. The reason we're bringing both webcams down to 1080-30 is because if one of them is going 30 frames per second, one of them is going 60, it's gonna be pretty obvious which one's which. We're gonna make this entirely about image quality, and then if you have a nicer webcam, you know you can up it to 60 frames per second. And lastly, with the 2 mirrorless cameras, I'm gonna try to match the lenses as closely as possible, just because lens choice is really personal preference, so there's no real reason to make one better than the other. So let's go sit at our stream setup over there, which looks great, and let's see how these look. Have you made your guesses, and have you left your guesses down in the comments below? And by the way, while you're down there, if you want to do us a favor, hit the like button. Helps us out a lot, pushes us through that algorithm, gets a lot more people watching this video, so thank you for doing that. But it's time for the big reveal. Let's talk about these two cameras first, the two webcams. Camera 1 was the AverMedia 513, the $194 webcam. How many of you guys got that? Be honest with me, be honest with yourself. I know when you're lying. And by the way, if you did leave a comment down below with your guesses, please respond to that comment. I'd love to see why you guys guessed that, why you were wrong. Let me know. But as I looked at the footage between the two, there were two big giveaways of the differences between the two. The main one was the dynamic range. The lights and the darks lose all detail on the C920. You can see on my shoulder and my hair where the light is shining on me, it's completely washed out while the 513 still captures all the detail there. You can always add in extra contrast inside OBS if you feel like the image is a little flat like the 513 looks. But if a camera is already over contrasted like the C920, you can't bring that information back. The second difference that gave it away for me was the color. While again, the C920, even though it has a higher contrast so it feels more colorful, the skin tones on it and the shirt almost look gray. Things like my shirt color were a lot more accurate on the 513. A lot of people don't like the 513 by the way it looks right out of the box, but that's the point of a high-end camera. The image looks a lot flatter and a lot duller right out of the box because it needs to in order to capture more of the detail. And then you add color correction later on to bring some of that pop back into it. As for the big cameras, we did two different tests with two different focal lengths on the lenses. First, we did super wide, and I used an 11mm lens. It's actually an 11 to 22mm lens. And then to match the field of view on the Sony, I set this at about 17 mil, because on a crop sensor camera you need a wider lens in order to get the same field of view, because that's just the way crop sensors versus full frame sensors work. Then I set both apertures to the same, which the lowest on the Canon was f4, so I set this to f4 as well. Then to get that more zoomed in, shallow depth of field look, on the Canon we grabbed that Sigma 16 mil f1.4 that a lot of people love. Both Canon lenses, by the way, are $400, so the Canon setup ends up being a total of $900. And then to match that on the Sony, I zoomed in the lens to about 26mm and I set them both to f2.8 so they could match. And let me know how many of you got this right. Just like the last set, the more expensive camera was camera number 1. That was the Sony. Camera number 2 was the M200. How many of you guys got that one right? That one is much more difficult to see. There were differences there, but it was hard to see which one was better. The interesting thing is between the two, the differences are very similar to the webcam differences. Right out of the gate, the Canon looks like it has a little bit more natural contrast built into it, as well as what looks like software sharpness added into it, I assume to make up for the lack of information that it grabs. In the raw footage, the Canon looks sharper, but if you zoom in just a little bit, you can see how much sharper the Sony actually is. The Canon had a little bit more red in it, like it leaned towards the magenta side a little bit, versus the Sony, which was a little bit more balanced. I would say maybe even leaned a little bit towards green, which was interesting because they were both set to auto white balance. But the biggest giveaway, in my opinion, between the two was the background blur. It was much more pronounced on the Sony because of that full frame sensor. And that's because in order to get the same field of view as the Canon with the 16mm lens on it, I had to zoom in the full frame Sony to 25mm. And the more zoomed in a lens is, the more background blur you get. Anyway, which ones, if any, did you get right? And if you like the cheaper one over the more expensive one, jump into my stream. Let's talk about it. I stream actually here on YouTube on my personal channel, link to that down in the description below. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, so go ahead and jump in. I always find it interesting to hear people's opinions on cheap cameras versus expensive cameras. I hope this was fun, and if you want to see more stuff like this, like blind microphone comparisons or blind light comparisons, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, happy streaming.